légèrement provocateur.
Well, that was a bit of provocative introduction that will allow us to start this roundtable devoted to assessment or evaluation. I'd just like to say quickly, in evaluation, we talk about metrology, and in metrology there's something called the halo effect. The halo effect is when you correct students' papers and you see individuals that you're trying to assess. It's the fact that you move after, for example, one really good candidate follows a very bad candidate. And there are studies that have been carried out with a lot of scientific rigor that show that when you come after a very bad candidate, you usually have a better grade. And if you come after a very good candidate, you usually have a lower, underestimated grade. So this came to my mind, and I was thinking to myself that we had a very arduous task here by coming after Jean-François Mattei, who I had the pleasure of working with from 1997 to 2004. So thank you again, Mr. Mattei. So now let's talk about evaluation. I have the feeling, and I think you do, that we talked about evaluation already since this morning. The first roundtable actually already dealt with the question of evaluation. The second roundtable did too. And obviously the following ones will continue to talk about evaluation. They talked about evaluation because many people, as in an integrated fashion, this is the way most people think it's important to talk about evaluation. So we will continue to look at it from an integrated standpoint. First of all, with professionals who, in a non-medical environment, a non-healthcare environment, have really integrated this into their practice. And then we will discuss it also with our colleague Fergus Macbeth, who represents the NICE from the UK. We will talk about integration into another healthcare system, evaluation integrated into another healthcare system, which is the NHS system in Great Britain. So the first speaker who will talk about evaluation, which reconciles both art, individual competence, and teamwork. We see that this is the path that we are all focusing on. Michel Guérard, who's a famous chef, and who is here as a chef. Yes, I'm here as a chef, and indeed, ladies and gentlemen, you may be wondering what I'm doing here, why they've invited a chef to this round table. I will just go back to what Roland Quérol said this morning. I consider myself as a sort of an imposter, a tourist here, or the iconoclast. So a chef is a manual artisan, but I wonder, isn't a surgeon also a manual artist, just like a pianist or a bullfighter? At the end of each fingertip, if you don't have intelligence or sensitivity, you won't have any good results. So I think this can reposition me a little bit closer to you. Nevertheless, I am certainly full of uncertainty, and I certainly worry also about having a chronic illness, but luckily I don't have one yet. Now, we're here to talk about quality. And what is quality? I looked at the definition in the dictionary. I don't know how we can define it, but quality in professions such as ours, and I'll come back to this, what I said previously, I was talking about the pianist, the chef, the bullfighter. They all have this advantage over the surgeon, which is that they are still remarked or noticed by the media, and they're in the spotlight, and they have a certain brand image or image, which unfortunately we can't say the same for surgeons. Surgeons are ignored very often, and often I, as a patient, just an ordinary patient, I regretted that sometimes, and this is similar to one of the roundtables we heard this morning, I regret that there's not a Michelin guide of good doctors, good surgeons. We could perhaps orient ourselves better towards the best doctors with perhaps more confidence and certainty in choosing a doctor. Well, that's a real provocative comment there. Now, quality. My job as a chef, I've carried it out in a very different way. And I must say that when I was a child, I would have loved to become a doctor. Yes, I did consider becoming a doctor, and then there was a combination of circumstances which meant that little by little I came closer to a certain type of medicine. I didn't become a doctor because I grew up during the Second World War in Normandy, and this Second World War prevented me from carrying out medical studies, and so I chose to become a chef. But I was lucky enough, I got married, and I met a charming woman who had just graduated from a business school and whose father had just set up in a spa. He had created what they call the chain of thermal spas in the sun. This was my father-in-law, and so I was put in contact with a medical world by my father-in-law. And in this spa, this thermal spa, I arrived from Paris in Eugénie-les-Bains near the Pyrenees, and I was wondering what I was going to do there. I came because I was in love with my wife, and I was full of enthusiasm to move down with my culinary baggage, which I did already have 2 Michelin stars, and I wondered what I could possibly do in this little village of Eugénie-les-Bains. And this is how I got the idea of setting up light cuisine. This was in 1975, and I called it cuisine minceur, or light cooking. And the idea was to combine thermal healthcare, physical exercise, and with a lighter cuisine, which had quite an effect because the number of visitors to this little spa at the time was only 800 a year, and now we're at 8,000 a year, so that's quite interesting.
And this invention of slimming cuisine helped me to meet the Nestle group, and for 27 years I worked with them, and I encountered 2 different worlds. First of all, the world of industry, food industry. Everything is big in contrast to what I did in my little corner in a confidential way as a chef, and also at the same time learning diet cooking. And since I was working for Nestle and with their research department, I was able to discover more and more what food can bring to health and contribute to health. This is my career, my life, which has led me to propose to the Minister of Health, Mrs. Bachelot, and related to my experience, the modern thermal treatments as a contribution to health. I proposed to her to create a health school, food health school. It will probably be called National Institute for Health Food with an inter-university diploma. This is where we are at the moment. The idea is there based on thermal cures for prevention, but also for haute cuisine, and this is something that can be taught and learned by people who want to cook for hospitals and improve it, and also for collective authorities. We speak of quality, but it can also be of quality. We see that in what you say, there are different accidents or incidents in your life which show how important this can be for the different activities we had. We come back to you, Michel Guérin, to speak more about this relationship between individual competence and talents and the contribution of a team following procedures. Now I turn to industrialists. First of all, Thierry Bourquin to my left, and then